This is the simple formula for getting that 5-star review every time you give a tour. I should preface by saying I have very mixed feelings about 5-star reviews. And to be clear, I strongly feel that a 5-star review gives zero indication of the actual quality of the tour. I just don't think that's the way we can measure it. However, we can't deny that reviews are important to a business. The more reviews, the higher up in the search results, which means more bookings, which means more work for guides. And it's the number one thing I'm asked by tour operators, right? Can you get my guides to get more 5-star reviews? So it's a topic worth spending some time on. And over the years, I've talked to tons of guides in all different regions and distilled the best tips and tricks into simple, repeatable steps to get you that 5-star review. I love formulas. So in this article, I will give a simple formula that will get you consistent 5-star reviews, including the more sustainable bare minimum version, and then an above and beyond version if you really want to go for it and rack up those reviews. So 3 simple steps to 5-star review. Number 1, give an amazing tour. The good news, people give 5-star reviews to average tours all the time, so it's not going to be that hard to impress them. But impressing them is key. If you give an amazing, mind-blowing, vacation-making tour, then your guests are going to be desperate to do something for you in return, which is where step 2 comes into play. But it really has to be above and beyond, because otherwise it's a much bigger ask to get them to do something for you, right? Above and beyond, this might seem obvious, but the more spectacular the tour, the more out of their way they're willing to go to give you that review. For example, creating a TripAdvisor account if they don't already have one, right? If you give the best tour of their life, they're going to be more than happy to create that. Number 2, ask for the review and explain why, right? So many guides feel awkward or aggressive asking for reviews, but you have to say it out loud. You have to literally say the words 5-star review out loud. Simply emailing the link, which is step 3, is not enough, right? How you bring it up depends entirely on you and your style. And it doesn't have to be scary. I always recommend playing around with a few different ways just to see what feels good, what feels natural. The more transparent, the better. And don't be afraid to pull on their heartstrings and give a little guilt, right? As I said, simply most important that you say out loud the words 5-star review. So, for example, you can always start with, at the end of a tour, saying, if you enjoyed the tour and would be happy to give me a 5-star review, I really appreciate it, ... Okay? So you're asking for it. But now remember, you have to explain why. So, some examples. And these are all real examples that I've heard. As a small business, we rely on 5-star reviews to get us bumped up in the search engine. So the more we show up, the more work I get, right? Or my manager bases my yearly review off of these reviews. So any extra 5-star reviews really help, right? Or we're having a little competition and my colleague Brian is ahead of me by just 2 5-star reviews. So I'm really just trying to get more than him. This is actually what I used to say on my tours, and it was always true. Brian was always a couple more reviews ahead of me, no matter what I did. But it was great. People were like, oh, don't worry, we'll get you ahead of Brian, right? And then my favorite one, also a true one, because my grandma reads all my reviews. I knew a guy in Philly who used this, and he said it really worked for him. People would even mention his grandma in the review. Above and beyond version, mention that word 5-star review more than once, more than when you're just asking for the actual review. This is a bit trickier to do well, but it's all about planting that seed in their head, right? The more they hear it, the more likely it is to stick in their head. So by the time they get your email, again, next step, you've already mentioned it a bunch of times, right? So oh yeah, that 5-star review I'm supposed to leave. Ways you can mention this casually. Let's say you're giving a beer tour, right? And one of your guests is like, oh my God, I love this bar. You could say, I'm so glad you love this bar. If you happen to leave a 5-star review and mention them, I'll make sure to show it to the bartender. She'll love that, right? It's kind of appeasing. It's not for me, it's for someone else, right? Or, of course, this should be said in like a very wink, wink, joking manner. You could say, oh, I'm so glad you liked the bar. It's amazing, right? And that'll make a great sentence for your 5-star review, right? You just kind of jokingly mention it, but you've said it out loud, so it's in here. Number 3, send a follow-up email. I could write an entire article on the art of a follow-up email. I spent a lot of time on this over the years, but to keep it simple, it's a must for getting reviews. Many tour operators have this built into the tour, even asking their guides to collect emails from guides, so this is probably something you already do. But to break down my personal tried and true method into 2 parts, it would be getting the email and what to put in the emails, right? So, getting the email. I'm a big fan of minimizing the amount of work done by the guide outside of the tour, right? Unless you're paying them for their time. So for me, it is all about using a template, but making it sound as if it's a brand new idea, right? The trick, make that email something of value to them. I personally used to use a list of places where we go on the tour, including the actual stops and also places I've pointed out along the way. It's the same list every tour, right? But I say it as if I've just come up with the idea. For example, oh, and as we're passing, do you see the place with the green door, right? They have the most amazing dumplings, super cheap. If you want, I can write that down and email it to you after the tour. I can just add all the places we visited today so you have it all in one place. They always, always, always say, oh yes, please. Every single time I've said that. And then let's say, you're at another stop on your tour and you say, oh, if you're interested in coming back to the spot, I'll make sure to add it to that list for you when I email you. Okay, so again, they're like, oh, good, that's now on the list. And then at the end of the tour, by the time you say, okay, remind me, who wanted me to send them a list of places we went today? Everyone's going to raise their hand. Everyone, because you are giving them something of value, something they want, right? You can even, again, to make it say casually, you can say, I'll just send around this piece of paper and just write your email if you want me to send you the list. So it's less aggressive, it's less pushy. Everyone has given me their email when I've done this. I've rarely had someone not give me their email, right? So the email template itself. Note, obviously it should have the review link, right? And it should be very high up on the email. Just get it out of the way. Just say, hey, for those of you who said you'd write a review, or if you wanted to leave that 5-star review, here's a link. That link, and you might not have control over this if you're working for different tour companies, but that link should be for the specific tour on the specific site you want the review. Do not make them search for your tour on TripAdvisor. They should open the link and immediately be able to start writing the review. Make it easy for them. If you are a tour operator and you're like, oh, but I want some Google reviews, I want some native reviews, I want some, split it up. Either give different guides different links, or once a month change up the link. So this month they're doing Facebook, the next month they're doing TripAdvisor. You have that flexibility, but you got to make it easy for them. Don't make them work because they will give up. Here's the email that I used to give. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being such a great group today. I'm so happy it wasn't too cold. Just a reminder, if you loved the tour and are just dying to leave me a 5-star review, smiley face, here's the link. Thank you. Also, as promised, here's the list of places where we've been, as well as a few other spots that I pointed out. I hope you can go back to visit some of them and that you enjoy the rest of your time in my city. Best, Nikki. Then I would just copy and paste the same list that I give out every time. Occasionally, someone will ask me a specific question. I'll add something in there, but it takes me 5 minutes to write that email. Above and beyond. This would be sending individual personalized emails, right? Dear Javier and Lynn, dear Amy, right? Takes more time, but the guides who do this get more reviews. You can also send 2 emails. The highest reviewed guide I've ever met credits his success to 2 emails. And obviously giving an amazing tour. Shout out to Lukasz in Prague. The first email can be the one that I mentioned above. It's the value that you're giving them. You're sending it day of the tour, maybe next day, but the idea is they're still going to use it while on their trip. The second email can be sent maybe a month later, maybe more, once they're home, right? And it could be anything. It could be telling them, you hope they had a great rest of your trip, and you just want to send a little reminder of your city for them to think about. And it can be a recipe, a movie recommendation, a photo, right? And then of course you add in, and if you haven't gotten a chance yet, here's that review link. I've known quite a few guides who do the 2 email. It works. And not a single person has ever written back to them to say, please stop emailing me. It's harassing. No one's ever said that, right? But they always get a few extra reviews out of that second email. So again, if you're like, you really want to get these emails, maybe, your team is offering you bonuses, so you're getting cash per 5-star review, go for it. You can really raise your review rate. And then I should say too, as like an added bonus, if you're still like, oh, I just hate asking for reviews, it makes me so uncomfortable, I get stressed out, I would recommend for you to hop on a free tour in your city. Any free tour, doesn't matter. Free tour guides often have to make a really hard sell for tours. Because, that's how they're making their money. So sometimes for you to experience that as a guest, I know selling tours isn't the same thing as asking for a review, but you can see it just when you're a guest, like it just kind of seems appropriate and expected and rarely awkward if it's done well. So go on those tours and just know you're never going to be as aggressive as that. And the guests don't seem to mind that, right? So good luck. And if you have any tips for getting 5-star reviews, I'd love to hear.